Hey everyone, this is Teresa Hegel, Executive Editor of Special Projects and Sustainability at ASI.
And this is Cassie Green, Content Director of Apparelist and Editor at Printing United Alliance. And you're listening to Branding Together, a new adventure into the converging worlds of print and promo.
We're here to bring you an engaging monthly discussion that dissects just how closely each of these industries align. Whether you're a promotional products distributor, commercial printer, apparel decorator, or a little bit of everything, our topics and guests will bring the ultimate crossover conversation.
When you're ready to bring your business to the next level, get lost in this month's episode, which is set to happen in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome everyone to the October episode of Branding Together. Today, Cassie and I have a great interview lined up with Jeremy Picker, where we'll be talking about the importance of creativity in creating winning print and promo campaigns. But first, let's get to some headlines.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe it's October, Teresa. Oh my gosh. But that is a perfect segue into my first headline, which is Pretty United Expo is this month. Woohoo! It is finally upon us. Obviously, we're very excited. Teresa and I will both be there. We will both be speaking. Please come connect with us. But I just wanted to outline a few of the top show features, including the apparel zone for hands-on training and apparel-specific education. We're going to have 2 new features this year at the expo called Spill the Ink and the AI Pavilion. So if you want to learn more about both of those areas, definitely head on over to printingunited.com where you can, learn a little bit more about those new areas. And then, of course, we will be announcing the winner of our Decoration Disasters contest that we're having right now. That will be on stage at the Apparelist Live Theater.
What is that? What is that?
Lots of fun things.
I've seen it kind of on social media, but what exactly is this contest?
Yeah, so we're actually asking decorators to spotlight their worst decoration fails. And this conversation sort of came about with some conversations that we had with Nikki Bowen of Cotton Street Apparel and Melissa Gibson at Lane 7, where everybody always wants to highlight what they do well, which is great. That's super important. But highlighting what we fail at actually helps us learn and helps us grow as an industry, maybe helps another decorator deal with a challenge that they might be facing. And so we decided to launch this to kind of highlight the failures and help create like an educational platform of like, hey, here's what we did wrong. Here's how to correct it, that whole thing. The winner gets 72 pieces of Lane 7 apparel, which is pretty big.
I love that. And I love that because I feel like how you handle failure and how you kind of deal with those mistakes really, it says a lot about you as a person, as a company. That's more, I think, instructive than, like you said, than those big wins. So that's awesome.
Agreed. Yeah. What do you got for us to start?
I have something I would like to highlight our Counselor Promo Campaign Awards that recently came out. So these are kind of, it's a contest as well, where we kind of honor the standout ideas that showcase the power of promo. So there's supplier and distributor self-promotion. I do one on sustainability, and the company that was honored was Proforma for their Sustainability is Served campaign, where it was really cool because it was like a whole kind of like lunch kit made with like sustainable materials, and it just sort of showed how seamlessly you can integrate sustainability into any project or product without it like screaming sustainability. It was still something that was useful and fun, but was also very sustainable. So that was really cool. Another cool campaign in there was I think it was a supplier self-promotion. There was this whole multi-sensory custom packaging project where it was a box, but you opened it and it smelled like popcorn and it played music. And there was like a little video screen where the sender had a message for you. It had LED lighting. It had it was like a movie star themed thing, which is why the popcorn and the movie intro music. But it was really cool to show how many different senses could be tied to just the experience of opening a box. But so that one is really, really cool. And there's some other projects in there too. I think all of those are great case studies to just highlight what promo does best, kind of inspire other distributors and decorators and suppliers about what they can be doing to up their game.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. Like, again, what you said, so important. Elevate,
Yeah.
do better. What is something you can do that nobody else is doing? Engaging all the senses. What a neat idea. Oh my gosh. Cool. Um, my second headline, and this happened a little bit ago, but I want to kind of backtrack and make sure everybody is aware of it. As Printing Impressions recently released the 2025 Printing Impressions 300, which is their annual list of top ranked printers in the industry. So, kind of keeping, I guess, in the theme of lists and things like that. But the 2025 Printing Impressions 300 ranking includes company name, location, all that good stuff, along with recent and previous fiscal year information, current and previous years rankings, which is, I think, actually really important to look at, and then, specialties of the printer. And so it's just a really cool way to see what the printing industry is up to. It's a good, I guess,
Mhm.
like meter for other printers to look at and say, hey, here's what my peers are doing. Here's where I stand. Am I normal? Am I not? Like, do I fall outside of this? Should I be concerned about that? Or yes, like celebrate. I made the list, or I'm in the top, whatever. Really a cool part of that. And then building off of that, the 2025 wide format Impressions 150 also released, which does build off of the Printing Impressions list. So there are great ways to go download that. You can check our show notes to go check out those rankings if you're
Awesome. I
interested.
love that. I'm a sucker for lists. Love to see where people rank, if they've gone up, if they've gone down. It's all fun. All right, so
Right.
I have one other bit of news. This is kind of big internal news for ASI that recently came out. Our president and CEO, Tim Andrews, announced that he will be retiring after 23 years with the company at the end of March next year. So that's, way more than 2 weeks' notice, of course. But it's a big deal. He's been at ASI for longer than I've been there. But the Cohn family, the owners of ASI, they've engaged a CEO search firm to help ensure a seamless transition process. So it was big news that dropped, but it looks like everyone has a plan and it's all going to be good.
Yeah, I when I saw this news drop, Teresa and I happened to be together or be seeing each other later that day. So it's been kind of interesting. I mean, I'm sure you all have had various reactions and thoughts and how
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is going to
Yeah. I
unfold
mean, the
within
news dropped
ASI.
literally while I was on the plane. So I took my phone off airplane mode and had like just a flurry of, you know, meeting requests and emails and breaking news, alerts, and I was just like, what is going on? Like that's I don't like when big news happens while I can't access it, but after I read through everything,
Right.
it's not it sounds a little scary at first, but it's a very measured plan. I think it's nice to know that yeah, I think Tim is going to be involved in, finding his replacement. The Cohn family is, you know, dedicated to finding someone who's going to be a good fit for ASI. So I think it's all good news. It's of course whenever there's something that's unknown, it gets a little scary. But having 6 months of runway is about as good as you can get. So
Right. Totally. Well, I know I've had the opportunity to meet him through various industry events. So definitely wish him the best of luck as he goes through the transition because I know that it's a pretty big deal. So yeah. Well, great. Glad we could catch everybody up on some industry headlines. It's always good to keep a finger on the pulse. We're going to move into the next segment of our show where Teresa and I always like to pick a topic, pick a theme where we discuss something that we're seeing in the industry, something that's relevant. And since it's Expo month, Teresa has graciously agreed to talk about in-person events. But obviously, like ASI holds plenty of in-person events. That from you guys have smaller events to larger trade shows. We do as well. There are plenty of open houses in the industry and small conferences and things like that. So really we want to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of, what do you get from each of these events? What are the differences between attending a large trade show versus going to something like the Apparel Decoration Summit?
The
or
Power Summit that
something
is
like
actually
that.
coming up
So,
in this same month, for ASI, so
exactly. So, these are kind of we're seeing a huge influx of in-person events, and even some of the manufacturers,
yeah,
suppliers holding their own
yeah,
open houses and educational things at their locations. So, looking ahead to Expo, I kind of wanted to start the conversation with these larger trade shows and why they are so crucial, especially in a time like this. The print and promo industry has not been immune to the 2025 upheaval. Let's just leave it at that. But in times of good and in times of bad, attending these large in-person trade shows is so crucial in my opinion, because that is where you're going to find the opportunity to grow and to
yeah,
continue to push the envelope. When things are not going great, that's where you have to say, look, I need to adjust. I need to change. The best way to do that is to see it in person. And that's where you can see, like, these larger shows, you can see such a plethora that sometimes, I mean, dare I say, it can
yeah,
almost
yeah,
feel
it can be
overwhelming.
overwhelming, but it's so important for everything to kind of be in one place. All the movers and shakers are all there, so you can pick brains of kind of anyone you would want to meet is going to be there. Like, when else are you going to have the opportunity to have that many people gathered together? I just don't think you will. And I mean, the value of seeing, touching demos, um, that's invaluable. You can go online and see like a video demo of a product or a machine or like, apparel or whatever it is. You can look at it, but that does not beat like actually feeling it, seeing it in person, seeing it come out of the machine. Like, there's real value in being there, watching watching it all happen.
Well, in the print and promo industry, that
Yeah.
we're tactile. We like to touch and feel and see for ourselves these firsthand results of what, like, the technology can do, what it can accomplish. I mean, just recently, Teresa and I were at an event and we got to see a lot of different technologies going and to see the difference between all of these technologies, whether it's, heat applied graphics versus embroidery versus screen printing, all this stuff. Just seeing it and being able to touch it will start to turn ideas, right? You can start saying, hey, look, how could I incorporate this into my business? Would my customers be interested in this? And I think that being at these larger shows, like even ASI Chicago, we had an editorial person on the ground that said, wow, I just didn't even realize some of this stuff is even
Yeah.
possible.
And I mean, the thing is, it can be overwhelming, these giant shows. However, just because you go to the big show doesn't mean you have to hit every single booth or do every single thing that's available. You can tailor it, you can customize it to what your own needs are. So the benefit is that everything is sort of there for the taking, but you do not have to partake of every little
Mhm.
thing. You have to, kind of evaluate, you spend some time ahead of time, research who do you want to meet, what do you want to see, and then make a plan. Because I like, even just with education wise, I believe that we actually are both teaching classes at the same time. I was really hoping to go to yours, but I can't because I'll be teaching mine. But
Oh,
but I mean, that's the point. Like, there's, education that's happening at the same time. You can't do it all, but there's going to be something for you there.
yeah. We always encourage people to really look ahead. Like you said, look ahead, plan ahead, go into it with goals in mind, and the education, geez, on its own at these huge trade show events is there's so much to pick from. And so again, like looking at even what are your financial goals? Let's set aside technology for a second. Do you have certain financial goals? Do you have certain things that you want to do better? Is it sustainability? Is it having, better SOPs in place? All of those things are discussed and talked
Right.
about at these big
Right.
trade
And
shows.
the networking, I think we
Yeah.
sort of touched on this too, but the networking really can't be beat. There's always parties and, coffee talks and all kinds of places where you have the opportunity to meet and talk to people you've never talked to before, or just catch up with old friends.
Yes.
I'm sure tons and tons of deals are done at these events because of connections that are being made. So you're really kind of
Yeah.
leaving things on the table if you don't show up. And I get that it's hard sometimes
Mhm.
if like you said, if it's a difficult year, there's an expense involved in taking a couple days off of your business, traveling somewhere new. Yeah, it can be expensive, it can be a hard sell, but the benefits you get, maybe if they're not exactly tangible right away, I think that there's so many benefits that you're gonna get that the ROI is there, you just need to convince yourself to do it.
Right. And I think if you don't engage in these events and don't attend at least a few a year, because maybe you are, yeah, maybe you are kind of scared to leave the desk, scared to leave the business. But I really think you are doing more damage because you're locking yourself into this bubble where you don't know necessarily what's going on or what options there are. And it, look, it could make your
Yeah,
business be a little bit stagnant.
yeah,
And that's definitely not what we want. I mean, the print and promo industry is, in my opinion, push the envelope so hard all the time. And the way to do that is to see, yeah, what your peers are up to and talk to them, ask them questions, find out, and even offer your own advice, right?
yeah. You're part of
So,
the conversation.
but I also wanted to, right, exactly. And that's actually one of the things I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into when it comes to some of these smaller events. So, like the power meetings and the summits that we hold and things like that. That's where the networking really becomes crucial because they're more intimate events. There are fewer people. So when you attend these smaller industry events, you really are now, it's not just having a conversation with somebody, it's relationship building. And that's where things really start to like
Yeah, I think
take
that
off.
those small events are really great for that relationship building, and they can be intimidating if it's your first time. I know, like I've attended our Power Summit before I knew a lot of the people in the industry, and I felt like I was at summer camp where everybody else had been there the year before, but I hadn't. So I get that if you're not like a naturally gregarious person, it can be intimidating. Um, but I think it's still worthwhile. Maybe find a buddy there that you can kind of, latch on to, not the whole time, but just to kind of help get your feet wet and like make some introductions for you. Or my other big trick. No, I don't know if people need this or not. Maybe you guys are all like, natural social butterflies, but I am not. So my trick always at these networking types of events is to scope out the room, find the person who looks more uncomfortable than me, and then talk to them, because then I feel like they'll be grateful to hear from me. It'll be easier for me to talk to them, and it works. So,
Mhm.
and once you kind of break the ice that way, you
Oh,
can kind of move on to other conversations.
yes, what a great trick. I love that so much. I mean, it's funny because I joke about this a lot. Like sometimes us editors, we do get a little introverted and we like our quiet time. However, yeah, in doing things like what you just described, I've met some
Yeah,
amazing people and truly heard some really cool stories and learned so much by just asking questions of these people I don't know and finding out more about their business. Everybody has this perception, I feel like, who's outside our industry, like, oh, you print t-shirts, or oh, you just provide like pens or mugs. Like, how special can that be? The truth is it's pretty special. Like, there are some unique things that have to happen in order to make your particular shirt or your particular, promotional product
right.
come to life. Like you were saying earlier about like this experiential package. Like that is not exactly run of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
mill, right?
totally.
And so sometimes you discover some crazy
Yeah.
things.
But yeah, I do think that there's value in both the large and the small events, maybe for different purposes, different people in the industry too. Like maybe, maybe you want your more technical person to go to the big show so that they can look at the equipment. And maybe, your executives would go to some kind of summit and kind of hobnob with the other big wigs. But I think there's really something for everyone in our industry as far as events go. There's big, there's small, there's in between. So
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. So, well, awesome. I am really hoping that somebody took away something from this and attends either the expo or the ASI Power Summit coming up or whatever it is toward the end of the year. But then as we move rapidly towards January in
it all
2026,
starts back
it
up again.
ramps back up. So you will have a whole
Yes,
other list
absolutely. There'll be a ton
of
more shows to go
events
to
to
next
attend.
year. Our guest today is Jeremy Picker, CEO and creative director of Colorado-based apparel decorator and branded merch distributor Amber Creative. Thanks so much for joining us, Jeremy.
Thanks, Teresa. Appreciate it. Good to see you, Cassie. Excited to talk merch.
Yes. So give us a backstory on how you got into the industry and how Amber Creative came to be. Where did your passion for branding and creativity come from?
Good question. Well, I think it started from a young age, not necessarily knowing that that would be my career path, but my mom was a seamstress. She taught me how to sew when I was young, and she was a seamstress for the local college drama department. So I always got to go behind the scenes and watch her making costumes for all the young adults, and just kind of enjoying all the glitz and glamour of costuming,
Mhm.
and so I think that's what embedded kind of this whole passion for fashion, I guess. That's a dad joke, but it rhymes, so I love it. And then, I think as I grew up, my older brother, he's 11 years older than me. So when he was in college, he was helping start an action sports clothing brand out of Orange County. So basically the epicenter of some of the streetwear brands, a lot of the action sports brands. And so all growing up, during my summer breaks and winter breaks, I would go out to California, and my brother was the production manager. So I basically got in a van and went to the screen print shops, the embroidery shops, the dye houses, the cut and sew shops, jewelry manufacturers. And for me, I just wanted to be around my brother. I loved him and looked up to him. And so I was, again, not even thinking that this would be my career path. But just soaking it up, watching him how to deal with mess up prints, and, kind of refining his eye on what the company would approve and what they could go to mass manufacturing. So that was a real big influence on me. But again, I wanted to be an engineer. I loved making things, building things. And then I went to calculus 2 in college and basically said, nope, this is not for me. My brain does not work in all of the derivatives and stuff. So I was really lost. I really had no idea what I was going to do. And then probably mid to late college, my brother, my brother's company that he was working for sent me on the road with bands, and I was basically traveling summer festivals, concerts, selling merchandise for his clothing company at these events, and driving around in an RV all around the country. It was a blast. Fun experience. Definitely got plenty of miles put on. And then after I graduated college, I needed to pay back school loans, and my brother hooked me up with a merch company from Nashville that managed probably 35 bands merchandise, not only design manufacturing, but also on the road live event merchandise sales. So I ended up getting into that and did that for 10 years. Loved it. Lived out of a suitcase, traveled in a nice tour bus, nice hotels, big arenas. So I got spoiled, and then I kind of got burned out of that, living, working probably 10, 11 months out of the year, traveling nonstop. I hooked up with a buddy who was in the band merch world. He was on the side that was designing and sourcing for all of us out on the road. And at the time, I got a entry-level job at a manufacturer in Arizona that did a lot of the R&D for Abercrombie and Hollister back in 2007, 2006. And just I went from making great money to making $8 an
Oh,
hour,
geez.
weaving appliques, literally taking out the voids of the fabric for 8 hours straight. And it was miserable, but the whole time I'm soaking it up. I'm asking about what's this fabric for? Why do they do felt with twill? And how do you get the fray? And what are these stitches called? I'm sure my coworkers hated me. But I was like, I knew this wasn't my future path, because, I probably would have gone back to the band world. But after soaking it in, I approached my buddy, and I'm like, hey man, I have this really cool process. And back then lasers were expensive. Only some of the big shops had the laser bridge, but very few of them had the laser beds. And so it wasn't easy to source domestically. And so I approached my buddy. He's like, man, I have this business plan. The name's Amber. And he was working for a merch company, and he's like, I need someone passionate about the apparel and the design and the development like you are. And so basically we're like, hey dude, let's start a business. A month later, I quit my job, but I went to my boss and I said, hey man, I'm quitting, but I want to be one of your customers. And we basically started Amber as applique, and really wanting to focus on the fashion forward merchandise. Technology wasn't as accessible back then. So there was Custom Ink, there was Zazzle, those type of companies, but we wanted to be more hands-on, a little more agency-like boutique, and really bring this retail mass market manufacturing to mom and pop shops, to restaurants, to churches. And that kind of got my journey set off in 2008. And here I am still in business, Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, here you are. So Teresa and I have, both followed along with your journey for a while now. Where Amber Creative started and where it is today. Describe that progression, because it is, I feel like it's become something different.
Yeah, not always by design, but kind of the starting point, our focus was the 80-20 principle. We wanted to offer 20% of the products, mainly being wearables, hats, t-shirts, hoodies, jackets, but we wanted to offer 80% of the decoration techniques out there. So once we started the business, we just went to LA and literally walked around and found manufacturers. We went into these, dye houses and basically just back before, manufacturers still have a horrible website these days, but back then no one even had a website. Like, you were looking at Google and hoping you could find something. So we wanted to offer, oversized discharge, rhinestones, studs, nicking and grinding, and just basically every thing we could for wearables, versus previously our competitors, it was screen print. It was just basic screen print, nothing fancy, very few specialty inks. And so we really wanted to focus on that. We didn't want to offer every product out there and just print on it, And so we purposefully went that route of apparel, wearables, and that basically was all we did for probably the first 8 years. And then, I would follow some of my customers on social media, and I would see, oh, they have a water bottle or they made a bag. And again, I had no interest in it. And I still don't, in my deep heart of hearts. But to run a business, I discovered that my clients are ordering it. So why not order it from me? They love my designs, our designs. They love, the quality apparel that we do. So how do I offer them all this other stuff? And I really had no idea. So I would bid on, or I would quote customers, and they would be like, nope, you guys are too high. And I'm like, man, my margins are pretty slim from what I'm marking it up. Well, I would just never win this. So I was looking to hire a sales rep. And in the interview, he's like, yeah, me and my wife used to run a distributorship through ASI. And we had this business. We ended up getting divorced and split the business. But he was saying, yeah, ASI is basically, all the promotional products. And I was like, interesting. Tell me more. I'm trying to interview him, but I'm trying to soak up what he's talking about. And so he goes, explains, he's like, ASI has this website, and you go and you find different products, and it gives you, distributor rates. You have to pay a yearly fee, and then you get discounts. And I'm like, interesting. That's why I've been losing all this business, because I was going to distributors' websites, who are marking it up, 30, 40%. And then here I am marking it up 30 to 40%. Yeah. So I was basically pricing myself out. And so after that, I was like, oh my goodness. So after the interview, I literally went to ASI, signed up, became a distributor, and was looking at prices. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, nice. Now I can actually be competitive. So not on purpose, but I just wanted to get all that merchandise for my clients. And so once I started ASI, we just slowly started drinkware, backpacks, more youth group stuff like youth camps and stuff. But as we progress, we're like, how do I take this kind of hands-on creative development and design into this promo side? Because again, I didn't want to offer tchotchkes. I didn't want to offer stuff that gets thrown away and just squishy balls and stuff. And there's a market for that, but I didn't want to go into that. So over time, we're like, all right, we kind of moved to full merch collection. So instead of us just pitching the t-shirts, we're doing the t-shirts and the hats and the bags and the journals and, enamel pins and stickers. And the customers were just soaking it up. We never did pro bono design. We would always charge them for creative and then, do that. If they didn't want to pay for it, we wouldn't work with them. But we decided, all right, well, let's take the t-shirt design, the merch design, and let's bring it into all the other mediums. And drinkware was really the first one that catapulted my business beyond where we were at. ETS was kind of our main core. And over 1 year, we added 300K of business just in drinkware. And, it changed my business. So throughout the time, focusing on merch collections, a lot of times we would just do pro bono pitches to try to attract new customers. And over time, people will take that and they'll go elsewhere. And so what I've done over the years is just kind of align myself with companies that really value what we bring to the table, that aren't trying to strong arm us on price. We don't have the technology stack that other people do, but we wanted to work with people that valued what we brought to the table and not just see us as a commodity. So my ebbs and flows, I've pushed a lot of business away that just didn't align. And I really want to focus on those clients that really get it. And, that doesn't always translate to the bottom line, but in my heart of hearts, I can't just make widgets. I have to make something with purpose and things that are usable and don't go to the thrift store right away.
Right.
Long answer.
No, that's a great answer. And I'd love to kind of talk a little bit more about like the creativity and the unique branding campaigns that you guys created, Amber. I'm curious, like, where do all the ideas and inspiration come from? I've seen like I think on like social media, some of the process behind doing things for like Conan's podcast or different podcasts and influencers. And I love to kind of see, oh, these are things that they didn't use, but these are things that they did choose. Like, how do you come up with all these unique campaigns and ideas?
Printing United Alliance is the leading member-based printing and graphic arts association in North America with over 70 years of history and more than 20,000 members worldwide. We're here to support printing professionals like you with the tools, resources, and information you need to grow your business, sharpen your skills, and expand your network. Whether you're a printer, supplier, student, or educator, we've built our community to serve everyone who's passionate about the future of print. An Alliance membership is a smart, cost-effective way to stay current on the latest trends, connect with industry leaders, and give your business the competitive edge it deserves. Head over to printing.org/membership to learn more about the memberships we offer. Let's move the printing industry forward together.
Yeah, so I think it's been my curiosity, to be honest, over my career of absorbing everything out there. I love the tricked out techniques. Back in the mid 2000s, I didn't own any, but I loved the Ed Hardys and the Von Dutch and all the just crazy decorations out there. And so I was just naturally attracted to it and storing it in my head. I think Pinterest, if I didn't get on Pinterest, I don't think my career would have been what it is today creatively, because I started, I wasn't really into social media. I've never been super active, I've been trying, but Pinterest just allowed me to compartmentalize all the inspiration that I'm seeing. Back in 2012, I got cancer and I was going through chemo for 6 months. And every day I would probably spend just 2 hours on the couch combing through Pinterest and just adding inspiration to it. And just that 6 months, I put in, I mean, hundreds of hours of time just eating up the market research, history, labels, textures, colors, and just building up my boards of what I found interesting, not necessarily connecting it to a specific project, but building my arsenal that I don't have to go on these old Tumblr websites and scroll down and right click and try to download everything. I was able to congregate it all in that one place. And so I think constantly feeding the beast, with inspiration, but I think it's also mixed with empathy and listening to who the client is and then who the consumer is for that client. I really wanted to connect all those dots of what I think is creative is different, but how can I use that creativity to give my client what they want? And usually the client wants to be on time, on budget. And then their client, their consumer, they want something that's cool. They could care less how much it cost them. They could care less, all the little administrative project management details that we have to do on a daily basis. They want something that they like, that they connect with, that they can wear in a social setting, like all the merchandise that they buy in retail. And so I think that was really where it comes from. I'm separating the ideation for this project with constantly filling my cup of inspiration. So I don't have to go elsewhere and do a Google search and have ChatGPT come up with ideas. They're already in there. They're in that memory bank, and not everyone's going to have that. Like I think I'm a freak in certain ways because I can recall images I found 8 years ago that now can be applied to a project. But really having Pinterest really helps me go back in there and then pull from that. And it speeds it up. Anyone can be creative if they have the time, and the resources. But within our industry, it's so quick. That's why a lot of people default to just the basics or taking what the client wants is because of time. We got to be profitable. So I think I figured out a process that I can streamline creativity. And it's unlimited. I'm trying to figure out how to do that in the industry because the B2B work is grueling. And so I'm trying to figure out ways, how can I support people in our industry? Because my ideas are, I feel like a never ending flow, and it doesn't matter what demographic. I study all of it. So whether it's old people or whether it's, Pilates or whether it's for a youth camp, I'm able to know that market and then connect it with what I'm seeing trending in retail.
Okay, two things. First, everybody pause, rewind, go back and listen to that again, because there are so many nuggets that you just shared in that, Jeremy, that it's like, I just wanted to scream effing brilliant. So everybody listen again. But now I want to build on what you kind of just finished with is, yes, this is an industry that moves incredibly quickly. And sometimes it can be very easy to fall in that complacent comfort zone of what's just kind of chasing what's next, just building on what's already out there, staying with what's basic because it's easy. You've kind of always taken that unique approach. Do you think that as the industry has progressed and changed in the last few years, do you think your approach has changed at all to building these stories and building these brands and helping people tell, or talk about their identity?
Good question. Yeah, most definitely. And I think a lot of it is maturity as well. Starting off, I took everything personal. I would take it all home with me. If someone rejected an idea, I'm like, no, it's going to sell. I know it. But at the end of the day, it's their brand, it's their money. So over the years, I used to really be sensitive about my ideas and like, I would just see them as, oh, it's a pot of gold versus little flakes of gold. Every idea is just a little flake of gold until, it gets turned into something that actually has value, which is hopefully the customer liking it and then their customer liking it. So I think I started off just mimicking retail, really. Like, no matter what clientele, I would look at retail and I would try to help them create a line that falls in line with retail trends. So I kind of broke up the whole retail industry back then into action sports, artistic abstract, more hand painted, kind of raw style, streetwear, vintage retro, and prep and collegiate. And so everything I would follow through from Abercrombie to Guess, to all the luxury brands. I would file all their shirts because even within those brands, they would have different vibes and different styles. So categorizing them. And then when the client would come, I would say, all right, who's your audience? Oh, it's teenagers. I'm probably going to go action sports. Or, if it was the Southeast, they really loved preppy vibes back then. And so I would really just build their line based on retail. But over time, through the maturity, I've learned to focus on the individual client. Retail might not be their audience, but I can still be influenced by them. But instead of curating the line based on just what I'm seeing these clothing brands are doing, I started going to the collection of items everyone kind of goes to that a company needs. Now, if it's a retail outlet, I'm going to have a different approach. But for corporations whose core product is not merchandise is a supporter for their company, I wanted to give them the basics, the t-shirts, the hats, the bags, the jackets, the journals, the drinkware, but then find those fillers that could be the star of the show. So Teresa was talking about the Conan, with Conan being so silly, we wanted to bring, plushies and truly custom mugs and ideas that are very Conan that not everyone's going to have because not everyone's Conan. So really finding out that, yeah, you got your core products and almost every company needs those core products for their company. But then how do you bring their personality and their company culture out? And I think that's through those exclusive products that really can resonate with their industry and their style. So, while I feel like, especially on the corporate side, while automation has kind of killed creativity in a lot of ways, because they want you to upload your logo, they want you to, produce it, they want to do all this, automated stuff. I've tried to go the other path and I want to be hands-on, bespoke, and really be able to curate that line specifically for that client. Again, if I didn't have there's only literally 3 of us in Amber, but I feel like our output is competitive with some of these bigger firms because of our whole creative and design process. Angelo is one guy designing everything you see from Amber for, the last 9 years. And so that's the only way we can do that is I help him streamline. I get him the baton, to a creative spot. He brings it to life. And that's how we really blew up, at least on the podcast merchandise, because every podcast was different. Their audience was different. The host had their own quirks. And instead of everyone having the same product, we learned to individualize the client based on our market trends paired with what everyone wants to buy.
That's so cool. I love the idea of, working with these podcast clients. You can't really do an automated thing, right? Because they all have such individual personalities, and nobody wants just like the generic thing. If you're gonna be buying podcast merch, it's like you want like the niche thing that they said in one episode, or like, I don't know, like the mascot that they might have, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So I'd love to talk more about kind of the secret to creating the perfect campaign. And I think we've already talked about it a little bit. And it seems to me that it's, like you said, it is different depending on which client you're working with. But I guess maybe like look at like your favorite kind of campaign to work on. what is the secret to getting it right? Where does the knowledge of like printing and blanks come in? How does it all kind of come together to the secret sauce, I guess, um to create this perfect thing that the client and the end user both love?
Yeah. Wow. So I think
Not that you should give away all your
really,
secrets, but
no, 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 it's okay. I love giving away my secrets because again, the more I have a small circle of influence as far as my clients. So the more I can help people in our industry make better merch, then we're all happy, and keeps that junk out of the landfill. Um, perfect is relative, depending on who you ask, but I think getting buy-in from the client helps create the perfect campaign. Getting them excited for the potential of their merchandise collection and then helping them execute it to make it perfect for them, their budget, and then their staff or their clients. I really like to break it up with you have your foundation merch, which is your corporate merch, and then, potentially for clients, you have your retail merch if you retail. If you don't retail, let's say your client merch, you need to treat it like retail. You shouldn't treat it like your employees' uniforms or your employees' branded merch. The clients don't want that. They're not an employee. They could care less. How can you give them products that are branded with your brand, but also meet that kind of retail approach? And then you have your promotions and trade shows. So like I like to break those three categories for every customer because it's a different approach within the same merch collection. So I think in order to keep pushing the boundaries of custom products, you have to educate yourself on what's out there in the whole big world of merch. You can only make a perfect campaign, I think, if you're able to go beyond what anyone can find anywhere on any, or site that just literally lists thousands of products and, you choose it and you put your logo and it's done. There's really no deep thinking into it. They're not even thinking about, ooh, are people going to like this? They're like, well, I need to check the boxes. I need to order this. And I think the one thing within our industry is educating yourself so you can expand your offerings. Don't only look at your vendors' catalogs. Go to Alibaba, go to retail, find out what's out there. And if there's not anything on ESP for ASI, then go seek it out. Like, I think people get so comfortable with just keeping within our little industry that they're limiting the end product. I think some of these big firms, Codis, Bamco, being able to fully source overseas and having those that's how they stand out. That's how all these Taco Bell campaigns and Dunkin' Donuts crushes, because it's cut and sew, it's 100% unique, and it goes beyond of what we all can get off the shelf.
Right.
Just yesterday, I was helping out a peer in the industry, and their client didn't really like how a product turned out. So kind of going into what you were talking about, knowing about the blanks and printing, and their client didn't like it. And then their vendor said, well, this is the way it came through and we printed it. And so the customer doesn't want the merch. The vendor's not helping them. And so, I was able to give my recommendations. The amount of shirts and products that I've messed up over the years, either my printer, my embroider screwed it up, but still the client comes through me. So I have to mediate that whole thing. All the wrong call outs that we make, picking discharge on a product that doesn't discharge properly, and the client gets the shirt and the print is pink and it should have been cream, from dye migration. So like, you'll never learn that unless you fail. And, I think that's why a lot of people keep it safe, because what you see is what you get, kind of thing. And it's easy to push a button and it's going to come out just like that. But there's nothing kind of behind that. So anyways, I was able to give that person in-depth recommendations on how to achieve what their customer was looking for, and then how to communicate that to the printer. And again, if you haven't had that issue before, you're just trusting your partner to make it look good. And so I think that bridging the gap is a big thing of I need to be able to take in what the customer wants, roll all those letters around, and then how do I communicate to my manufacturer who's more technical, that could care less about these fluffy, make it pop. You know, I want it to be cool and edgy. Like they don't compute that stuff. And so I think all those years of knowing the apparel, I could be a huge source for people in the industry that don't have that. What I'm finding out is that because I'm from the printer or the printing and manufacturing world, I kind of take for granted that on the promo side of the business, apparel decoration isn't the sole focus of merchandise programs. It's one category. Apparel or wearables is one category of this whole thing that, you know, people are trying to work with HR and building that out. And so that knowledge of apparel, you won't learn that unless you fail. And so I think what I'm seeing on these promo side is like their creative department, their sales reps, their project managers, they don't have that experience of the ins and outs of retail merchandise. You know, they're selling the merch like crazy, way more than I am. But again, you stick in your comfort zone, you're going to get that type of business. But the more you can expand, one, it builds credibility with your clients that, oh, they can do all this fancy stuff. They can handle my basic corporate logo, no problem. But then they're like, well, we have this special project. Remember that, you know, Jeremy can do, you know, we saw this full custom beanie or I don't know whatever product. Let's use them because they know that we have this breadth of creativity beyond what they can find with their local printer. So it's been a huge help. And I love helping people in our industry because it helps me validate that, hey, I do know something after all these years.
Yeah, you definitely do. I mean, so for anybody listening, I've used the services of Jeremy and Amber Creative for some branding stuff for our church, and the package that they created was amazing. You know, people love it, and so he definitely knows what he's talking about. But Jeremy, in your opinion, why does branded merch matter to a company's identity or a company's story?
Yeah. You know, I think we are in the age of consumerism. All of us, whether we're in the industry, we're all marketed to in one way or another. We what we're trying to help our customers do, we are, even though the t-shirt, I cannot buy an expensive t-shirt unless it's Ralph Lauren. I we know how much it costs, and I cannot purchase things that I want to purchase just for the fact that I know the cost of it. Anyways, having that marketing to us is I don't know, being able to find out, like, I think the consumer's a lot smarter than they used to be. So just doing the basics, just kind of slapping that logo, there's no soul to it. You go to the thrift store and you just see lines and lines of Gildan shirts and then, you know, corporate logos sewn on vests. Like those are the products you see all over the thrift store. And it's because there's no, I don't know, personality through it. So being able to kind of tell that story, and the public is going to judge you really quickly if your merchandise program doesn't fit the story of your company or extend that brand. It's that one tactile thing, I think, that goes beyond marketing, advertising, whatever product or service you are using from this corporation. Merchandise is that way to infiltrate your consumer or potential consumers on a way that's not salesy, not like buy my product. But people, again, they treat their public persona, their merchandise program the same as they do in their employees, and they can't. They're completely different approaches. And so when you're doing that merch story, it should feel not only authentic to you, but integrated in your already going marketing strategy. It shouldn't be merch is over here on this island. Merch should be integrated into every part of a business, whether it's just uniforms or in some of these big print shops I'm sure you've gone to, the shipping department has their own branded merch. The ink department has their own, branded merch. The people on the presses have their own. And it's this visual communication that shows I'm a part of this tribe. If you have questions or you want to be associated with it, you know who to go to. And so I think that should translate into the marketplace of saying, this is our product. Even if you're a boring company, there's still a way to connect with your target demographic, And I think the merchandise is an easy way to be that median between someone purchasing and getting them down the funnel versus, hey, I like this shirt, or I would rock this shirt. It talks about my town. It doesn't even have to be focused on, hi, I'm Dropbox. It could be focused on, all right, we're in San Francisco. Let's create merch that is around our city, get people wearing it, and then hopefully introduce them to your product. You're not going to just always say, here's a shirt, you're now going to be my customer. It doesn't work that way. So using merchandise as that, I guess, silent tool to get you in front of people. But if it's junky and if it doesn't have intention, it's going to fall flat and you're just wasting money, and you might as well buy pay-per-click ads at that point.
Yeah. Speaking of junky, throwaway, knickknacks, trinkets, trash, whatever you want to say, obviously promo especially has kind of a bad reputation. But, just listening to what you have to say and all the people I've talked to, it doesn't have to have that, right? So how do we elevate the perception of print and promo, and take it away from like the knickknacks and make sure that things are not going into the thrift stores and like clogging up the aisles with just stuff nobody wants? How do we elevate it as a whole? Not just you guys, but
Yeah,
just as
good
a whole. How do
question.
we elevate this industry?
Yeah, I think all these collabs and all of these corporate companies, big brands, I think they've helped us in this industry as far as creating something that is outside of the typical tchotchke that everyone sees. Like, I was looking at, it's a LinkedIn influencer, and she's like a business coach, and she asked the other day, let's talk about swag. We all have had those crappy things that no one, a tote full of them from a trade show. But what are some swag ideas? I don't like that word, but that's a common term in a lot of industries of what is memorable and what do you use often. And just watching people from our industry and then from other industries kind of go through it and like give their ideas. And it's like, those conversations weren't really happening 10 years ago. Corporations weren't like, merch was just something, again, an afterthought or something you had to have. These big companies that are focusing on merch collections and merch drops, that's been huge for our industry. So I think the biggest thing to go from tchotchkes and knickknacks to merch that people want is focus on being intentional versus leading with budget and catalogs. I think every business is unique. I think trying to give them that unique experience while staying profitable really is the dream, because the better they look, the more they sell, or the more that people rave about their product, the more they're going to come back to us. Yeah, you might have got 1,000 t-shirt order, and then you put sponsors on the back of the shirt, and they're not going to come back for another year. And then you go to the thrift store and there's all their shirts just hanging out there. They're not necessarily going to be stoked to work with you necessarily when they don't see anybody wearing their merchandise. So we all have to deal with budgets. That's just a given. But when you lead with, hey, we can get you the cheapest possible, well, I think there's going to be someone that's always going to beat you. There's cheaper prices, there's faster turns, there's better user experiences. So I think the real way to stand out is your ideas plus the empathy portion that I was talking about, and then the execution. we need to be the directors. We need to be the ones giving our expertise. They're our one client. They're not our only client. We have all these other clients. And how can we use our experience to influence their campaign? There's plenty of order takers, but again, if you're doing it manually, which a lot of mom and pop shops are doing because they don't have the tech stack of all these people or all these big companies, your ideas and your personal touch is the one differentiator. So I really think that when we go ourselves and see it differently and know that there's so much more potential, and again, it doesn't always have to be higher in price. It just has to be a better product and a better idea that is going to be useful for our clients versus letting them pick. They're not experts. We're letting these people pick from a catalog, and they're not experts. So they're going to default either on price or what they saw from here with no thought about that end consumer. They're not thinking about that until you bring it up. So again, the being intentional versus being an order taker is the way we get away from that.
Nice. So building off of that thought process of how we elevate the industry, looking at, that past trend of maybe the perception, now looking at today's trends of, yes, there are lots of unique things happening, lots of customization. Now let's look into the future. What direction do you see this industry moving? Where do you see it maybe like 3-5 years from now?
Well, not necessarily in the way I want it to for my business model. I think where I'm seeing it and, just talking with people in our industry is the full package, one-stop shop is only going to grow. Again, having that tech stack, your ERP, I forgot some of the promo companies, but the ones that connect to all of the suppliers and bring in, I know Common SKU does it, and a couple of other of the big brands, they have that software where it connects to them. They're getting better pricing. They're spending less time on projects. They have the warehousing. They have the fulfillment. They have live event activation staffs that they have a full outsourcing department. They have a creative department. They can support on social media marketing assets, the kitting. I think at least the bigger companies are going to just gravitate. They don't want to be that hands-on, most of them. So I'm really seeing, people want to push all that aside. They want to outsource all of that. And for small distributors like me, I see the writing on the wall, to be honest. I'm watching all these big companies in our top 40 ASI distributors, and they're just picking off distributors, mid-sized, small distributors. I'm seeing some of them, Whitestone Branding, they've bought a couple suppliers as well. And, I think that they're just going to continue gobbling up different people because it's basically sales funnel for them to buy them up and give them an opportunity to go into a different industry. So, for me, I'm trying to reinvent myself and try to figure out, like, how do I fit in this landscape? 15 years ago, it was a free for all, but now it's with technology, with, corporations growing, with the promotion of, merch collections and new gift hires and onboarding, all these different gifting companies. It's just a lot of it's going to just gravitate towards that. And I can't keep up with it. Again, there's only 3 of us. So I'm trying to figure out, how can I use my creativity and marketing experience to help companies in our industry? To be honest, I want a third of my business to be able to support people in our industry, because my goal is to make better merch in the world, to keep it out of landfills, to build your brand.
Yeah.
And I can only do that if my circle is right here. So, I think the wealth of knowledge that I have, that I've grown on the, live event side for touring with bands for so long to running my own company, I want to be like this creative partner for hire. Like, I have enough ideas that I could work with every big company in this industry and have unique, fresh ideas without crossing borders, without worrying about non-competes. Like I can give them fresh ideas for their customer just like it's mine. So, no matter how cool or boring a company is, I can be that source to think beyond what maybe the art department is thinking of or the sales rep is thinking of. I'm also building out 3 direct to consumer brands. That's been one little piece that I haven't, dove into fully. And so to diversify from, COVID really just, it rocked my business like a lot of other businesses. But it also, I don't know, mentally took me into a weird path. It was a depressing time. And I also discovered what I don't like and what I do like of running a business. So having, no matter how many cool ideas I have at the end of the day, it's someone else's brand, it's someone else's budget, it's someone else's execution. Doing these direct to consumer brands, I'm the creative director, I'm the funder, I can do whatever I want to do. And that's what's going to help bring me more joy than the rat race. And so that's been my approach to the trends. Cause again, I'm seeing where the industry is going. I'm seeing people are buying less as far as like corporations, the industry is like really fickle right now. There are plenty of people that are growing, but from what I've talked to, a lot of people are struggling. Like, I talked to a printer in California. He usually does 80 grand a month in screen print revenue. He did 7 grand last year, and he's in the heart of Orange County, California. So
Yeah.
that's a scary thing because they're busy 3 weeks out. Like they're always busy. And to hear that it's slowed down there to where a lot of the clothing brands are building up is kind of scary. So, for me the business side is just a necessary evil. Like that's not what I love. Like I love being my own boss. I'm a free spirit, but I'm trying to figure out ways that I can, if something happens in the world, that we lose business or we get shut down overnight. Like I'm not relying 100% on my B2B clients. That's why I'm trying to expand for the future to say, all right, I want a revenue stream with direct to consumer and, retail boutiques. I want to support people in our industry right now. I'm doing a collab for Dia de los Muertos, and Cassie, you obviously know about it, but I'm working with Lane 7. I'm working with Stalls. I'm working with Numo. I'm working with Pop Promo. I'm working with Showdown Displays. I'm working with Hudson Throws. I'm working with Maple Ridge Farms. And we're using our creative ideas for this Colorado Mexican brand we're building for Dia de los Muertos, and doing those collabs to give people in our industry ideas of execution, ideas, development, sourcing, and then creating a whole story and a whole campaign behind just one idea. And so I'm excited. We're going to be launching it probably in a month. And it's going to be really cool and fun and playful, celebrating the holiday, but then also showing how we can use off the shelf blanks or products to create this cohesive retail merch line. And working with 7 vendors at the same time for a side project, it's a little stressful, but this is where I see my company going and see my team. So we can do more if we can support those that already have the platform and, just work together and use our skills to promote their brand. So I'm excited about that. But again, the writing on the wall scares me, and I'm trying to get ahead of it before I have to shut down my doors.
Well, I think that you have so many ideas and so many connections you've made that I'm hopeful that won't be an issue. But this has
Yeah.
been a great conversation so far, but I do want to switch gears for our final question. Away from all the serious stuff, we just get very silly.
Yep.
Here's the question. Aliens land and demand a promotional gift. So what's
Yep.
one thing you would hand them to represent humanity and why?
Ooh.
No pressure.
I would give them a 24 karat Labubu. No, I would probably give them a branded coffee pot and say this is the what fuels humans, and if you try this, your civilization will continue for a millennium.
They're probably
I,
very tired after their trip, so caffeine would be a good.
exactly.
Yeah.
24 light years away, man. You need a pick me up, and this is how all humans go from sad to happy.
Thank you, Jeremy, so much. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Well, fantastic conversation with Jeremy as always. Definitely one of my favorite people here in the industry. He's a shaker. I've always admired the way he pushes boundaries. But it is time before we wrap up our episode for a little bit of fun. Yay! So this month, Teresa and I are going to play this little game called Pitch or Pass, where we pitch each other absolutely ridiculous product and branding ideas for some service or something like that that people likely don't need. But we'll have about 10 seconds ish. Okay, I'm not going to commit fully
I don't
to
have the
10, but let's
timer
just
out or anything.
for right. To pitch our idea, then the other must decide whether they actually would produce it or pass. So we've each come up with 3 ideas to share. So
Yeah, I'll
Teresa,
go
you
first.
want
So
to go first?
actually, this is funny. I stole this one from that. Do you know the show Parks and Rec? Okay. My daughter and I have been
Yes.
rewatching it, and the one character, Tom Haverford, that's like all he does is have these ridiculous business ideas. So I decided to steal one. It's called Sparkle Suds. It's detergent with glitter on it, or
Ooh.
in it. And then there's a runner-up, Disco Dairy butter with glitter. Basically, you could do this with anything. Any product, add glitter to it.
While it's hilarious, I think I'll pass. Mostly because as a parent of small children, glitter is just, I can't. I mean, even though I have boys, I just can't.
It gets everywhere, and you never will get rid of it. Sparkle Suds.
Yes. But I like the concept. Like if I could have it for like a Halloween, like wash my Halloween clothes in or like my Christmas clothes in to like amp up
I
the
actually
holiday
bought
vibe.
maple syrup that had glitter in it. I don't know. I mean, it was edible, so I
Interesting.
think it's okay. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you're still
so
here.
it's fine.
Didn't kill you. All right. Here's my first one. Yodeling can koozies. So you can slip it on your can or bottle, and every time you take a sip, it emits like a cheerful mountain yodel jingle, which you could customize to be your brand slogan.
Okay, I did have a mug once that sang when you lifted it. It was very annoying, so I'm gonna pass. I feel like the only way this would be a good thing is if you're trying to drink less. You know, like, maybe you could use it as a suppressant. You know, like, oh God, I want to take a drink of this beer, but if I do, it's gonna sing at me. So that could be the one use for it.
There you go.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
self-control. I like it.
Okay, here's my next one. It's an app called Napify that schedules naps for you, but then it'll get mad at you and like send like passive aggressive messages if you don't take your nap when it suggests it.
Yes, 100%. Love it. I'm going to ignore it every time, but I really love the concept and it would be like a huge mood booster. I mean, yeah. I would love to think I have time for naps and that I could be bullied into one.
It's
But
it's a dream, but not actually.
It is. Right.
Yes.
We can hope one
yes.
day, Teresa. All right, so I've also got a techie one for my next one. So holographic sticky notes. So
Okay.
hang with me here. So
Okay.
you're gonna peel off the note
Yeah.
from your stack. You have your stack. You peel off the note, and then you put it on wherever. You write your little thing, and then it projects a 3D like
Okay.
logo, your brand, right? Like picture. I don't know what the movie is.
Star
There's lots
Wars.
of movies that have these little 3D. Yeah, Star Wars. Yeah, picture that. Picture Princess Leia coming up from R2D2, but it's a sticky note.
I'm gonna say I want that. Yeah, I'm not. I can't imagine how much it would cost for each sticky note, but how cool would it just have that
I
up
don't
and
even.
then
Yeah.
a hologram pop off of the sticky note?
I mean, I certainly would remember the
Oh,
brand
yeah.
forever and always. And I use a lot of sticky notes. Like we talked about this last episode, old school. I use a lot of sticky notes.
Okay, here's my last one. It it would be called Air Pocket, and basically it would be bottled air from famous locations. So you could get a sniff of like the air around the Eiffel Tower or Times Square. Very silly.
I, I have to pass, but only because I cannot get my head out of like some of the stinkiest places on this earth. And I'm just like, why would I
Yeah,
ever want to
right,
relive
right.
that?
I did once have I bought from I think Niagara Falls like a little bottle of Niagara Falls water as like a um souvenir. So they do have that kind of
Yeah.
thing, but the air might be taking it too far.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I would love like a bakery
Okay.
air
Yeah. Yeah,
bottle,
just but it
maybe.
would only be like
Could
one
be good.
sniff of something nice and then it would be gone. So,
Yeah. Right. Right. All right. Last one. Pins that you can wear, but then you can take like the top off, revealing like a secret message, and then it doubles as like a
oh,
pog. And I've decided I want to
we're
bring
bringing the
pogs
pogs back.
back. So now we have a game
I
and
love all of
branding.
that and I want it. I love secret messages, pogs, pins. Perfect. The only thing that better is if it
That's what
somehow were
oh,
like a
I love.
slap bracelet too.
Oh, that could be good.
And
Brilliant. I wonder how many people know what pogs are that
yeah,
are
we're
listening to
old,
this.
so, I bet they gotta be
You know.
making a comeback again, right?
Right. Everything else 90s
Alright.
is making a comeback. So, but all right, well, fun. If you all listening think that you have a product that would be funny to pitch and you want us to talk about it on a future episode,
Yes.
hit up Teresa and
You
I.
know where to find us.
Otherwise, please, yeah, right, exactly. You know where to find us. Otherwise, I guess we'll see
Yes.
everybody at the expo or next month
Bye,
for November's
everyone.
banding together.